All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The Denver Nuggets basketball franchise came into existence in 1967 in the ABA before merging into the NBA in 1976. The Nuggets have seen their fair share of highs and lows over the years, but they are finally the kings of the mountain at last after last night's 94 to 89 win over the Miami Heat, which gave Denver their first title in either the ABA or NBA. You think about it with the Nuggets, the one man wrecking crew that is Nikola Jokic, the two-time NBA MVP, nearly averaged a triple double for these playoffs as he dropped 30 points along with 13 and a half rebounds and 9.5 assists during Denver's postseason run. And in these NBA finals, Jokic averaged 30.2 points, 14 rebounds, and 7.2 assists in 5 games versus Miami. The Heat never had an answer for Jokic as his size and skill reigned supreme. And in the process, Jokic took advantage of the size disadvantages while he also used his smarts. Jamal Murray showed the basketball world what he could really do when healthy, as he averaged more than 26 points and 7 assists during Denver's championship run. You think about it with the depth of the Denver Nuggets, because having a healthy Murray and having a healthy Michael Porter Jr. back allowed Aaron Gordon to be more versatile. He kind of flew under the radar at times, but this is a guy that, if you don't pay attention to him, he can get you for a quick 20. And you think about it in the offseason, bringing in Bruce Brown, bringing in Kentavious Caldwell Pope, and of course, KCP knows a little thing or two about winning a championship, as he was part of that Lakers team that won in 2020 in the bubble. And of course, that was the same Lakers team that knocked off Denver in the Western Conference semis that year. Now, when this postseason began, all of the talk in the Western Conference was centered around the likes of the Phoenix Suns, Los Angeles Lakers, and Golden State Warriors. But after the Nuggets quickly dispatched of the Minnesota Timberwolves in round one, they would get the best of Kevin Durant and the Suns in the second round before sweeping through the LeBron James and the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, as they were truly the best team in this postseason. I said it before, and I will reiterate it right now. I really felt that Nikola Jokic being slighted for the NBA MVP award this season, for the regular season award, added some fuel to his fire, but not just his fire, the fire of his teammates, because they love that guy. They'll go through a wall for that guy. And I guarantee you, he, like his teammates, especially his teammates, really felt disrespected that the big fella didn't get the award once again. He barely missed out on being the first player since Larry Bird in 1986 to win the NBA MVP award in 3 consecutive years, as of course the honor this year went to Philadelphia 76ers center Joel Embiid. Now, Embiid did lead the league in scoring this past season at 33.1 per game, but Jokic only missed out by zero point 0.2 of an assist from joining Russell Westbrook and Oscar Robertson as the only players in NBA history to average a triple double for an entire season. And of course, unlike those players, the Joker did it from the center position. However, in this championship run for Denver, we saw Jokic run through Karl Anthony Towns, DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, and whoever the undersized Heat tried to put on him. The Heat tried their hardest with their matchup zone on defense to slow down Jokic, but he's too skilled of a passer. And if you try to stop the Joker from beating you with his passing, he simply either bullied the Heat in the post or just went to work with his jump shot. Has the NBA ever seen anything like Nikola Jokic? I'm going to say yes and no, because a lot of old school players will say this, and they got a couple of years on me, but they want to compare him to Arvydas Sabonis. And the thing is, the Arvydas Sabonis that the NBA fans saw when he came over in the mid 90s with the Portland Trailblazers, that guy was a shell of himself. He wasn't as mobile due to the leg injuries, but he could still pass, like no other at that position at the time. And you just think about what Arvydas Sabonis could have been in the NBA if he had come over when the Portland Trailblazers had drafted him initially out of Europe in the mid 80s. But nonetheless, you look at Jokic's passing, and then you also look at his skill set. And honestly, I feel that Nikola Jokic is a combo of Arvydas Sabonis as well as Hall of Famer Tim Duncan. You look at just what he does and how he makes the players around him better. And again, you know, his ability around the basket to finish, his ability on the boards, his ability as a passer. And the thing is, he plays with his smarts, he plays with his head. He does not play selfish. If he feels a double team coming, he's going to pass that ball. And you look at this Denver Nuggets team around Nikola Jokic, they're very skilled and they're very fluid as far as running the lanes, getting to the basket, making proper cuts. And that's what sets up guys like Porter close to the basket. That's what sets up guys like Aaron Gordon close to the basket. That's what sets up guys like Jamal Murray on the outside for open shots because of Nikola Jokic's patience, his smarts, and his skill set that he brings to the table as a basketball player. Now, Nuggets head coach Mike Malone, I really feel does not get enough credit and hasn't gotten the credit that he deserves for being a good coach. But I think all of that's going to be put to bed now, being that he just led this Nuggets team, excuse me, to the NBA championship. And you think about Jokic and Malone working together for so many years now. This is the only head coach that the Joker has known since coming to the NBA. And the same can be said about the relationship with Jokic and Jamal Murray, two guys that came to the Nuggets 1 year apart. And, they began their careers in Denver as bench players. And look at them now. You just look at it as a whole. This is a credit to this organization, their ability to scout, draft, and develop their talent. Because when you think about Nikola Jokic, he was taken 41st overall in 2014. He didn't come over to the United States until the following year, and he was taken 41st overall in that draft, where Aaron Gordon, his one of his running mates in the front court, was taken fourth overall by the Orlando Magic. You think about so many names that went ahead of the Joker that year in the NBA draft. These guys are no longer in the NBA, and it just shows you sometimes not the draft process being overrated, but I think the draft evaluation, because some teams, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, some teams are just focused on who they think is the best athlete as opposed to going for a need on your team and trying to envision what somebody can be several years down the road. But then on top of that, you have to work with said person. Too many teams around the NBA right now are they'll draft a guy and then they try to make him something that he isn't, a la being a 3-point shooter. And with that said, we've got some guys around the league right now taking 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 3-point shots a game that have no business taking that many 3-point shots. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you can take the time to teach a big man to take all these 3-point shots, you can also take the opportunity to teach that big fella how to play the post. Nikola Jokic is polished already coming into the NBA, but if you look at him year by year, he has gotten better, and now he is among the elite players in this league. Now, aside from Murray and Nikola Jokic in 2018, Michael Porter Jr. Had top five talent, but that back injury in that limited him in that 1 year at Missouri, allowed him to fall all the way to 14th for Denver. And remember, the Clippers passed on him twice that year. But you look at how he's fit into this team. And then getting back to Murray, who was taken in 2016, seventh overall that year for Denver. It's one of those where a lot of times at the big trades, you don't pay attention to things. The Nuggets got a bevy of picks from the New York Knicks when they made the Carmelo Anthony trade back in 2011. And I remember people, this is long before I started writing and podcasting and all that stuff. People that I knew laughed at me, and people looked at me like I was foolish when I said then that Denver got the best of this deal. And the thing is, a lot of times with these big trades, people get caught up in the big names on the trades, but then things like this fall under the radar. Denver had the opportunity to swap picks with the Knicks once again in 2016. They used that pick on Jamal Murray, and now you look at what he has become, an anchor for this Denver Nuggets team, and he's made them very formidable when he's healthy. Because you think about it, after the Nuggets got to the Western Conference Finals in 2020, they looked like a team that could make another run in the postseason in 2021. Okay, at that point, Jamal Murray suffers a knee injury late in that season. He's out for the playoffs. Denver gets swept in round number two by the Phoenix Suns. You go back to last year. Murray missed the entire year. Michael Porter Jr. only played 9 games rather. And with that, the Nuggets were still able to make the playoffs as a top six team in the West. And that was because Nikola Jokic had to put this team on his back on a nightly basis, which resulted in him getting his second consecutive MVP award. But of course, they lost in 5 games in the first round to the Golden State Warriors, the eventual NBA champions, because Golden State was just able to focus primarily on Jokic and make somebody else beat him. And of course, Denver lacked that depth last year in order to do it. And of course, now this time around, we're seeing what this team can be. But you think about all of those draft acquisitions, then general manager Calvin Booth and this front office going out there and acquiring KCP from the Washington Wizards last summer. And you saw his impact on this team this year because he provided them with some grit. You bring in a guy like Bruce Brown, who you signed last summer, and an overlooked guy that is a quality role player for this Denver Nuggets team. And even if he were to leave, he could be a quality role player in another system, depending on who he's around. The Nuggets took Christian Braun 21st overall this year, and you saw his impact in the finals. And then you see the potential for him to do even bigger things as he continues to develop with this team and in the NBA overall. And for the Nuggets, they just gave the Heat a reality check. And it was a reality check that Miami needed. And I'm not trying to slight the Heat in any way, shape, or form because this is a team and an organization and a franchise that is built on toughness and determination. And we saw that especially with Miami's first championship when they were led by Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade back in 2006. But nonetheless, to come in as an 8 seed from the play-in tournament, Miami was on the brink of elimination. They went to the fourth quarter in a do or die situation against the Chicago Bulls, trailing, and they came back and rallied, of course, then taking care of the Bucks in 5 games, taking care of the Knicks in 6 games, and then start on spotting and getting that 3-0 lead on the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, only to drop the next three, but to come back and dominate Game 7 in Boston. So you know that the toughness is there, but the way that Miami is built, it's only going to get you so far. Jimmy Butler, and I've talked about this before, and I'm going to say it again right now. He took a lot of people's lunch money during the Eastern Conference Finals. He punked the Milwaukee Bucks. He did the same thing to the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. This is the second time around for the Heat in the NBA Finals since 2020. Of course, they got there and lost to the Lakers that year in 6 games, and this time around, they lost to the Nuggets in 5. They're going to have to make some roster adjustments in Miami because Jimmy Butler is a star. He's not a superstar. And that's not a slight to him because, in my opinion, that you can count on one hand how many guys are truly superstars in the NBA. He, as good as he is, he's only going to get you so far. And you're going to need somebody else alongside Butler to help you get over the hump because you think about it with Miami, you look at them when they got to the finals. And I think the best thing for them to have tried to have done, and it was going to be easier said than done, was to finish off that Celtics series a little bit quicker than they did. Obviously, that's not the case. The Celtics are a very good team. But with that said, Miami ran out of gas, and it was just like it was when they lost to the Lakers in 2020. They ran out of gas, and then on top of that, they played a superior team. And you look at it, Miami was going out there trying to have guys like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and Jimmy Butler try to guard Nikola Jokic at 6'11". And even with Bam Adebayo, who was giving up some height to Nikola Jokic, they simply couldn't stop him. It was a field day. And if you focus too much on Jokic, he was going to beat you with his passing, and he was going to get other guys involved, which he did pretty good throughout this series. But getting back to Miami, Jimmy Butler just basically ran out of gas. We saw him in round number one against Milwaukee, averaged more than 37 and a half points per game, 24.6 against the Knicks in the conference semis, 24.6 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 6 assists versus the Boston Celtics. But here in the NBA Finals against Denver, Butler only averaged 21.6 points, as the Nuggets never allowed him to have that get off moment where which is what he was able to do in the first three rounds of these playoffs, as he was the best player in each of those series. But this time around, he ran into a buzzsaw, and at the end of the day, just a better team in the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Bucks never capitalized on their size advantage against Miami because they focused too much on being a perimeter team. Boston failed to take advantage of the Heat's lack of depth versus theirs, but Denver was like, you know what? Because they saw the blueprint, they saw the games, they had an opportunity to sit back and watch Miami a little bit in depth. And with a team like Miami, what they lack in size, they make up for in heart and determination. And the thing is, if you're going to beat Miami, you have to be fundamentally sound, and you have to play for 48 minutes, which is what the Nuggets did. And that is why they're NBA champions right now. But again, Miami needs another star player if they're going to be serious about winning an NBA championship, because at the end of the day, you see why it is so important to have multiple finishers. We saw that throughout this postseason run. If it wasn't Nikola Jokic in the fourth quarter for Denver, you had Jamal Murray taking over. Just ask the Phoenix Suns, just ask the Lakers, and of course, right now, just ask the Miami Heat. And even with that said, Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. each had their moments in this series as well. Now, you look at the legacy of Nikola Jokic, and I said this once he became a two-time NBA MVP. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, because if you study the history of this game, everybody that has won that award at least twice is a Hall of Famer. And the guys that are active right now that are two-time MVPs are definitely going to be in that mix as well. Once you add the names, of course, of the great LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo. But aside from being a two-time MVP, he's now a one-time NBA Finals MVP, and of course, a one-time NBA champion. And you look at it, he's a national hero. He already was in his country of Serbia. Now it's almost like cult like status with him, as far as like, his following. And of course, this has been a big week in the country of Serbia, which started off on Sunday morning when Novak Djokovic won the French Open, while also securing more Grand Slam titles than any man in the history of men's tennis in the process. I've talked about, and I'm going to talk about it again, the combination of this guy being Arvydas Sabonis and Tim Duncan. And of course, Tim Duncan, of course, was known as the big fundamental. This is what Nikola Jokic is. And I think people have to accept the fact that this guy is the real deal. He is one of the best NBA players. And you know what? I think there's more to come for this big fella. Even with all of this focus in the NBA now on three-point shooting, positionless basketball, all of that jazz, you still need yourself a skilled big in order to win. You think about it, the Bucks beat the Phoenix Suns a couple of years ago with big man basketball. When the Lakers won 3 years ago, AD was front and center alongside LeBron James, and of course, this time around, Nikola Jokic led his team to an NBA championship. So, of course, after you've won, the question is going to be, can the Nuggets run it back? Possibly. I'm not sure. A lot of questions have to be asked. You look at the NBA's new CBA. How is Denver going to be able to navigate that salary wise? Well, one thing that they've already done is make that trade with OKC for some of their picks, to give OKC some of their future picks, as they're trying to pool their resources, as they understand that this is their championship window. And you know what? Let's attack now. You've got Michael Porter Jr. under contract. Of course, you got Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon taken care of for the next several years. KCP is going to be back. Bruce Brown has a player option. So the pieces, for the most part, are in place. Is Jeff Green going to come back? We got to wait and see. But nonetheless, there's a lot that we have to peel back the surface on. Who's going to stay healthy? That was a big issue for the Nuggets the last couple of years. And of course, with the NBA draft and the start of free agency right around the corner, there's going to be a lot of trades and a lot of shifting of players throughout the league. But with that said, congratulations to the Nuggets. They were the best team through this postseason, and you can make the case that they were the best team throughout this NBA season. They flew under the radar, but this team consistently took care of their business. Hard work pays off. And of course, for the Denver Nuggets, they're going to celebrate like no other right now. They earned it, they deserved it, and they are NBA champions. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.